We need to talk politics, because we've got the Shadow Secretary for Education standing by, talking about childcare costs of primary school children, which are rising higher than wages, faster than wages.
Certainly. The Labour Party is concerned, apparently, that this is another example of the Tories failing to support families who are already facing a tidal wave of cost of living pressures, as we've been talking about.
Yes, indeed. So let's talk to Bridget Phillipson, Shadow Secretary of State for Education. Morning to you. It's good to see you this morning. Look, you'll have heard how heated it got here, talking about all the pressures that people are facing, whether it's those who are just struggling every day or those people who feel like they're being almost taxed out of existence. This is a very, very difficult time fiscally, isn't it? No matter what end of the scale you're on.
This is a difficult time for so many people, for families and for pensioners. That's why Labour set out a plan to put money back into people's pockets, so families would get up to £600 towards their energy bills through a windfall tax on oil and gas providers. You know, they've made lots of profits, and we think it's right that people are supported through this difficult time. But on childcare as well, you know, we've seen costs going up. Families are finding it incredibly hard to manage, and that means many people, usually women sadly, end up being forced to give up work because they can't make childcare work for their families. That's why we've got a children's recovery plan that would put in investment in the early years, but also childcare doesn't stop when your children go to school. So we want to see breakfast clubs, after-school activities and small group tutoring for all of our children, because we know just how difficult the pandemic has been, in addition to all of those cost of living pressures too.
And this is something that comes up time and again on the doorstep. And, of course, we've got the local elections coming up as well. The cost of living crisis, certainly the cost of childcare. But inevitably, and I think we may well have lost the signal there.
Oh, she's back.
I don't know if you heard me there. Inevitably, the other thing that's going to come up on the doorstep is Partygate, and now they're calling it Beergate. Do you think it's fair that whatever happened in that Beergate incident with Keir Starmer and possibly Angela Rayner as well, do you think it's fair that that should now be investigated, as investigations went into the number 10 parties?
I think there is no comparison between the two. The police have looked into the matter. There's no case to answer. No rules were broken. I can see why Tory MPs ahead of the local elections want to spend their time seeking to drag us all into the gutter and make out that we're all the same. But really, you look at the number of fines that have been issued at Downing Street, the fact that the Prime Minister lied to the British people, that he's lied to Parliament, that we've got the only Prime Minister in modern times to have broken the law to still be in office, and understand just why they're getting so desperate around this. Keir Starmer and Angela Rayner did nothing wrong and broke no rules, and Tory MP should know better than to waste police time on this.
Interesting. The Labour Party lied, didn't it? Because it categorically denied that Angela Rayner was there. And now, of course, we've got video footage proving that she was. So why, if no rules were broken, if nothing was wrong, why were those lies propagated in the first place?
No rules were broken and there was no problem with her being there. As I understand it, there was an honest mistake made. But if Angela had been asked directly if she'd been there, she would have confirmed it. There was no attempt to, on her part to hide that. It's just, as I understand it, an honest mistake. But the fundamental point is no rules were broken, unlike in Downing Street, where they were wheeling in suitcases full of booze to have parties. I mean, there is really no comparison between the two. And this is just desperate stuff from the Tories.
Certainly people are getting very, very fed up with Partygate, Beergate and everything else, but just feel that it would be fair if the Labour parties and this particular incident were investigated in exactly the same way as Number 10's incidents. That's just a fair playing field, isn't it?
But it has been looked into and the police concluded there was no case to answer. Of course, you're right, we're all equal under the law. And it's right that we are all treated equally and that issues are investigated, but that's happened. I mean, they might not like the outcome, but it's happened.
Can we ask what you think about Parliament at the moment? Because there have been these various... there's now investigations into that porn incident, which obviously you'll be very well aware of, but there's investigations into sexism, in misogyny, inappropriate behaviour across all political parties now. What is it like as a woman in Parliament? Are you aware of a significant problem?
I think what we've seen in recent days in particular has been shocking, and it demonstrates why we do need to see further change. within Parliament. I think it is slightly different sometimes when you're a woman MP, because some of what we've seen is where there's a power dynamic, particularly where it comes to staff, and there are many thousands of staff who work within Parliament. And I want to make sure that Parliament is a good workplace for everyone who's there. I'm glad we've got processes in place that allow people to come forward and report concerns. And I would always encourage anyone who witnesses any kind of behaviour that they regard as unacceptable in their workplace to make sure they come forward so that matters can be dealt with. And Parliament is a workplace, but of course it's a workplace like no other, and we do have to hold ourselves to a high standard.
Exactly this time yesterday, I think we were talking to Anne-Marie Trevelyan, who was saying that she's come across some pretty nasty misogyny, pinned up against a wall herself and put in a really horrible position. Have you come across any incidents like that? Have you suffered in the same way from acts of pure misogyny?
I was really sorry to hear about Anne-Marie's experiences. Personally, I haven't experienced that kind of thing. I think all women right across society will have experienced sexism in their lives because, of course, Parliament reflects wider society. So, of course, it's important that we talk about what happens in Parliament. But still too many women right across our country lose their jobs when they're pregnant, earn less than men, and are subjected to male violence. So this is part of a much bigger challenge in terms of how we make both society safer for women and how we tackle male violence at the same time.
Well, it's lovely to talk to you this morning. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Bridget Phillipson MP, Shadow Secretary for Education. Thank you.